Welcome to another episode of War Hero to Superhero, transforming military, veteran, and first responders' lives from the bedroom to the boardroom. I am one of your hosts, Daniel Faust. It is Wednesday and it's November 18th. We are halfway through. November is here, right? So I'd love to hear your comments and shout outs on social media if you are watching today. And what did we start thinking about? We're roughly about a week out. What did we start thinking about? Like even before everything happens, we thought about holidays and Thanksgiving and Christmas. 2020 drastically rebooted ourselves and we went from yeah to woo, real bad. And we can easily go towards the negative. Not on my watch. There's no point of going towards the negative. We already do that enough as is. 70,000 thoughts a day. I'm not going to go give you those. I'm already struggling as is. So I want to give as much positive to you so it reinforces me, so it reinforces you to go over and to thrive. So this month's theme is being thankful. And you are now in the boardroom, virtually speaking. So look at my beautiful boardroom. And we'll be upgrading soon. So what is being thankful? Webster's, no, wow, I said Webster. Oxford's dictionary says it's being pleased or relieved or expressing gratitude or relief. Now, talking about today, how do we express this to our coworkers and bosses, no matter if they're virtual and thousands of miles away, or you get to be at least 6 feet of distance because of COVID. You know, we all don't like it, but the thing is that we need to go over and to learn these things so we can go over and thrive, because if we act like ourselves, it's like king of the mountain. It's one bloody bath, right? We want everybody to go thrive and get lifted up. So school is in session. So if you've already done virtual school and everything else and you're listening to this, guess what? It's another session. So go grab your mug of your choice of beverage and come join in with a nice cozy blankie or whatever you need to go over and listen to, because we're going to be talking about 5 appreciation languages to show your thankfulness, which is inspired from the 5 languages of appreciation from Dr. Gary Chapman and his co-author. Unfortunately, I don't remember his co-author. So if you are that co-author, I'd love for you to comment and say, hey, that's me. So let's jump into them. First one is words of affirmation. If you ever read Dr. Gary Chapman's Love Languages, you come to find out they apply everywhere. So words of affirmation go from the bedroom to the boardroom, right? Some ones have to be a little more non-risque as others, but you can still use words of affirmation in the boardroom. So the first way you can use words of affirmation is to celebrate their character. So you can see the potential in somebody. Like my daughter Faith is listening in the background. She's going to be quiet, right? Yeah. So to celebrate her character, she's a great artist. And if I want her to be a great artist in the boardroom, I need to encourage those attributes and characteristics, even if they are just in beginner, amateur style, or even professional, because we need to go over and celebrate that. People get motivated at their words of affirmation to hear like, hey, you're doing an awesome job. Let's go give you a challenge to go over and go do better. That particular artist. So celebrate their character. Also praise their personality style. No matter if they go over and it goes too far to the right or too far to the left, their personality style is exactly what it's supposed to be for what you need it to be. You might just find out to put them in a different place. So praise their personality style. They might be the outgoing one like me, and they're working in your records room, and you might want to praise their personality for being outgoing, and then later on you can pivot that appreciation to move them in the place like doing the briefings. I loved briefings. Come on, I'm doing this by myself in the garage most of the time. But also you want to go over and adjust fire to the situation, because some people's words of affirmation, depending if they're more outgoing like me or more reserved like my daughter Hope or my wife or even my father-in-law, might need more of a private one-to-one words of affirmation compared to a public announcement of like, you are the greatest person in the place of the planet, to going over into written, especially, and also contextualize the generations, because my generation likes written and so does my father-in-law, but my kids, not so much. So if they're in the workplace, you might not want to do written. Maybe you want to do like a TikTok video, and maybe that's that version of written. Going from there, the next one is quality time. Now you're saying to yourself, how do we get quality time in a workplace that we're in constant chaos and COVID and everything else? Well, we get 86,400 seconds a day, 1,440 minutes, and 24 hours in a day, and the majority of our time is spent at work. So how do you go give quality time to somebody? Let's say you're doing video and you're doing this. How do you go over and do that? First off, if you're doing if you're not doing this face to face and you do a video, make sure your camera is arranged just right, which we're working on. So hopefully in our next radiation, you'll see us locked on your eyes. So just like it should be, is eye contact. Keep those eyes contact to contact. It shows a sign of respect and shows that you're paying attention and you're not going over and giving them the time that they need, even if it's something as a couple questions. Also, no multitasking. Don't be going over and checking your email, checking your phone, trying to read up on something else. Obviously, if you're working in a team and you're doing a research project, fine. But if you're going over and seeing that person to go connect, give them the quality time. Now, if you're not doing it via video and whatnot, and it's multitasking in a different way, you go over and just focus on the message. And also you want to look for feelings and thoughts in a conversation. It's a lot easier when you have the verbal in front of you. You're physically talking to the person. You hear the voice, you see the body language, see the tone. So video is always best. But if you're on the phone, you're only going to get less. You're going to get tone and you're going to get words. Tone is 82% and 18% in the sense of words. And it's also the same thing in text, about the same amount of number. So you really got to go over and not over insinuate the tone, but you got to balance it out of thinking when you interact with them. So you always want to try to interact with them over for video or face-to-face first, and then go phone and then go text. If you never interacted with the person before, you have to assume a baseline that you don't know them. We assume our personality style, our feelings when somebody sends something. We need to know and think of their intention, not ours, especially when we're going over and trying to give them quality time. The third one is acts of service. You're saying to yourself, how are we going to do that in a virtual world again? It's like, we're not connected. We're doing things over the phone, everything else. We might have a quick meeting, things of that nature. Well, acts of service could be as simple as going over and helping them with the load that they already have. The first stuff you want to do, and I always remind my kids of this, and adults need to be too, is you need to do it of an outpouring. Most of the time we do it backwards. Pretend this cup is like totally what the energy and time and everything I have in my day. See inside of it? I can't outpour. I don't have enough water in there to go outpour, but we do it all the time. We tend to go give and give and give in these acts of service, but it's truly not going to be appreciated in the long run if you don't have the outpour to go over and give. So make sure you got your stuff done first before you go over and serve somebody. That's number one. People can sense it. They don't see you fully there and fully engaged when you're giving them acts of service. The second one is to go over and ask. And you need to ask on a regular basis. If you're not going over and asking, if the person's needing service and you just try to do them for you, it backfires. It backfires me as a dad. It backfires me as being a husband. It backfires in the sense of even my cat meowing. But you're staying here right now. So meow, meow. Our live is live. So she can wait a second. So I will serve you when I'm done my outpouring. But right now I'm still pouring. So from there, also an ask is to check your attitude and to do it their way. The hard part of checking the attitude part is checking your attitude. Are you really wanting to serve as an outpouring? You just like the old 90s says, you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. You remember that song? Well, maybe you don't, and I'm the only one on the planet. But if we're not checking ourselves, we're wrecking ourselves with that person as we're going over and serving them and doing it their way. The thing is that most people, when they ask for acts of service, they want it to be done a certain way. For me, if it's not done the way that I'm going around asking, I'd rather have done it myself. And that's the same thing with other people or acts of service. So you need to be paying attention, making those peepers, going over, making sure they're paying attention, and your ears are listening, and you're using your senses. Our fourth act of service is tangible gifts. Tangible gifts. It's like, again, we're separated, we're away, we're thousands of miles away of things. How do we go over and do these things? Well, first off, you got to go invest the time, person, so you got to think before you give. Just like my cat's thinking about getting out the door. Ain't happening. So you want to think of that person. How are you going to go over and do this before you do that? Because a lot of times we get into corporations, we're like, we're going to do this type of gift and that type of gift and this type of gift. For example, decorations for the military side. Only a small percentage actually wants that decoration to be in public to go over and get that, but there's a small percentage that goes over and does. The thing is that I don't care about decorations. It's like, oh, it's going to get you points on your service record. Well, unless I'm like really bombing and testing, I really don't go over and need it. I'd rather go over and say the tangible gift you give to me is a day off, or you go over and you paid for a meal, or you Actually, I love getting free meals and stuff like that. Or you got me a PS5. But now at work, you got to balance that with this one. These two next things. They must value it, because if the person doesn't value it, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your money, you're wasting the stewardship of the business. And also, lastly, is you got to be fair but creative. Now, when you're in the government rules, if you're military or you're a veteran that's working in the VA system, the government systems, yes, it's usually $20. But there's a lot of opportunities that have cash value of $20 that you can go over and do that people will go over and like. So you got to have those conversations. You got to go connect to people. So that's how you go be appreciative. The simple thing is this, is that you can ask your staff and just say, hey, could you go over and have a conversation with them, connect with them, and then say, could you give me like a list of 5 items that you would like that's under $20, and get that repository and go get that going. Maybe they go over and draw a raffle and they go get the prizes that the majority go over and want. And they might not like every prize out of the raffle, but the thing is that at least it becomes fair and it's creative, and you at least thought of the community at large. Now the last one is physical touch. 2020, nobody's going to want to touch anybody. Actually, they really do. Come on, think about it. When people go over and take off their mask and go stuff like that, and then you see as they're talking and everything else, and they're leaning forward into the conversation, they usually have some form of physical touch type body language in there. So a couple of things to go and think of, especially for 2020, is that we have to think of it being socially acceptable. Person A and person B have to be acceptable of this particular thing of that. So obviously, I wouldn't recommend the deep, intimate hug, but again, person A and person B has got to go take their risk in that work center. Obviously follow the rules of what the of guidelines and everything else, but overall socially acceptable. As COVID morphs and changes, this might be applicable to go over and say, hey, if you're in Korea, it's going to look totally different on physical touch than it is to be in America compared to Germany, compared to other countries. You go to the Latin countries, they're big on physical touch. And when you go to the Arab countries, their social distance is way less, even outside of COVID. So you also want to adjust to the situation, because each person might like a different version of physical touch. For me, I'm not a hugger. I don't care if it's COVID or not. I'm not a physical touch person. I do it to go over and love on the people that I'm with, but I'm not going to go physically go out there and be like, I need a hug. And you might have that person that doesn't need a hug. For them to go over and know that their physical touch boundary is, it could be, for example, it doesn't have to be much. It can be a fist bump, which can easily sanitize. It can be a peace sign, bringing back the 70s and 60s. It can be elbows. You can just go over and do this. A lot of people have been going like this with the whole elbow thing. And some people even do the tap shoe. This one's a little hard. I'm going to try to see if I can do it. And the thing is, basically you take your leg and you raise it up like this, and then you tap your shoe. So you're doing it at an ankle level, but you're bringing your shoe up to tap each other's shoes. So you keep that distance. Some people even do the back. Like I had one woman that had no arms and had legs, and this was pre-COVID. She was a speaker, and she literally shook with the back of her foot. So we did like a little tap thing. So you would raise the foot and go and do a tap thing. And this was before there. And lastly, with taking all this knowledge bomb, and you're like, oh, it's only been 13 minutes. I don't know if you can load more in there. I sure could. I actually cut it down because I didn't want to overwhelm you. I would love for you to read the book of 5 Depreciations by Dr. Gary Chapman, because it goes through chalk through examples and stories and whatnot, and how it's applicable. They don't tie it to COVID. That's why I tried to tie it as best as I could, but you can go over and get the niche of the idea. So the last thing is you want to be aware of your blind spots, especially as a supervisor, especially as a coworker. You find the ones that you go tend to gravitate towards. Your love languages in the bedroom is the same ones that are typically in the boardroom. It's usually not that drastic difference. You're not going to be physical touch at home and be like, yeah, I'm acts of service at work. You chose that to socially adapt, but more than likely, if it was socially acceptable, you would do physical touch. So, but you want to be aware of your blind spots, especially as a supervisor, especially as a coworker, and you wanting to go raise your thankfulness level up, which we're talking about this week, is you want to be aware of the blind spots. And the only way you can become aware is actually, I recommend to go into Dr. Gary Chapman's website and go doing your inventory. The same one that applies to your marriage is going to pretty much apply to your boardroom. Your bedroom and your boardroom are going to go apply. So whatever one that's your lowest in there is that one. And you want to go over and raise that up because most people that you interact with, you probably virtually or in person, depending on what job you're doing as a military veteran or first responder transforming from war hero to superhero, is going to be the people that you're going to interact with. My entire home, I can't say my father-in-law left. He's only been here 38 days, but I can say my son is the highest on physical. My wife is first on physical touch the most. My son is second. My daughter Faith, which is in the background, is going over in a close third. Hope and Trinity are in between. Hope is actually less physical touch than Trinity. And then my father-in-law, I can't read him, but I run to that constantly. I run into people that are like, So you got to be aware of your blind spots, and it helps you go over and grow. I've become a lot more of a physical touch person, even with COVID. Again, take your risk, what your measure is, but the long story short is that I've grown in that. I'm not saying I'm the best. I will tend to come home and forget, or someone's at work and they really need a hug, and I'm like, So beware of your blind spots. Challenge yourself to go over and to connect, and that's how you're going to show appreciation to your coworkers in place, and that's how thankfulness is going to go up. Because as they see you outpouring and being sacrificial and going over and doing that, the workplace will go over and overflow too. Because if you're outpouring from your cup, overflowing out, then the same thing happens for them. As they overflow with that appreciation language at work, they're going to want to overflow out of their cup. So that is pretty much about it. So our superhero challenge of the day, because we have this every day, and you can check us out at Podopolo to go over and to take your podcast to the next level, to take these challenges, to go over and to connect with us, or you can do this on Facebook and YouTube, but Podopolo is the best way. So if you want a dynamic, interactive app that goes over and connects you to the podcasters, not just of me, but hundreds of podcasters, to go over and to actually be in the community, take the messages that you're listening and apply, and not just be information junkies. I'm one of those. I have to watch myself. So if you don't want to be an information junkie anymore and you want to be application junkie, go over to Podopolo, Podoplo, and go over and interact with that app. We're actually doing a giveaway up to $1,500. So if you want more information, put in the comments Podopolo, Podopolo. So our superhero challenge of the day is to share your best way to show appreciation in the digital world, because this world has changed, but we've had about 8-9 months. So I want to see if you're applying what we're dialing in. Maybe you're doing it organically, maybe it's the first time, or maybe come back in the next couple of days to a week, either here on Podopolo, to go over and to say, hey, this is the best way I show appreciation in the digital world. So I want to thank you for going over and joining. We want to thank our sponsor again, shopsocialscenes.com. So if you're getting ready for Christmas shopping, want to support a veteran company with War Hero to Superhero and our next initiatives in veteran transformation, you can go over and shop on there. There's roughly 60 stores, men, women, children, jewelry in that one. They're growing to 2,000 stores, and this will be the new virtual mall of the 21st century. So definitely you want to go out there and do that. Once you go over and spend $200, you get a deep discount, and you can even go over and apply. And if you want to run this as your business, why not go over and bring another revenue stream into your household that only costs you $200 to start, and you get a 20% split. And then each people that go over and shop get a discount too. It is the wave of the future. Unfortunately, malls are going to be in between. You're going to see the mega ones survive. You're going to see the smaller ones go over and die. But the virtual mall is here to stay. I think it's the next level of Amazon. That's why we partnered with them. And also, if you're a nonprofit, the business is low cost to free. I think it's even cheaper. So again, you'll have to get back with me. I usually have my partners go into the details of it, but I know that nonprofits pay little to nothing to go over and get that. It brings another stream into your nonprofit pocket. So we want to thank you all for joining, either on Facebook, Twitch, where else am I at? I'm on YouTube. We'll eventually be on Podopolo in the live stream. We're getting there soon. And want to thank all you guys for continually watching, continually supporting, continually commenting. Again, this is always a conversation. And if you're struggling in the boardroom on appreciation, go connect with us. Every military, veteran, and first responder gets 20 minutes free. I just did a podcast a couple hours ago. He asked me about his stuff. I'm like, heck yeah, I'll give you 20 minutes of my time because you are that important to me. So it doesn't matter how far or close away, I am here to go over and serve you. And as we grow, our team is here to go over and serve you. So we want to thank you for going over and joining. You guys have a great Wednesday. We'll catch you tomorrow for another episode of War Hero Superhero, transforming lives, military, veterans, and first responders from the bedroom to the boardroom. Thank you. Have a great day.